sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Gracie Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Winning woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we're soon claiming victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unplugged Unfiltered. I am Brian Clements, alongside no one tonight. Actually, it's just going to be me. Bob is out doing dealer boot camps, day-long boot camps, intensive kind of training for dealers that he works with through his company. So it's just going to be me tonight, but I wanted to do, I guess, of course, we're doing it a little different just because it's just me. Second off, I want to talk about how transparency is not trust. And you can't really see my background, but you can see it on the thumbnail for any of the streaming platforms. But yeah, transparency is not trust. A lot of times I have over-delivered and I still got burned. And I want to talk about that. What does that mean? What does that look like? Because it's kind of an ironic statement saying, hey, you can be as transparent as you want, but that doesn't always lead to trust. And a lot of times you'll actually get burned more the more transparent that you are. Now I'm not saying, especially in business, I'm not saying go lie to everybody, go do this, but you've got to be able to work inside of your scope. If you're not working inside of your scope, if you're not setting those boundaries, you're going to be walked all over. And it is going to create so much pain and so much struggle as you are constantly over exerting yourself to accommodate pure full transparency. And so it's something that I've dealt with multiple times in building Triton. It's something that I'm currently dealing with to an extent. Is I've given a lot, feeling like, hey, if I give all of the information, if I do everything that I'm asked to do, that people are going to somewhat blindly trust me because, well, they have no reason not to. But what I've come to find out is that that actually is biting me in the ass more times than not, because now it becomes more of a power grab, is what it seems like to me, is that when you bend the scope or the obligations that are set in contracts, whether they're set in operating agreements, you start to work outside of that scope, then whoever you're working with, whether it might be a partner, whether it might be an investor, whether it might be a supplier, they tend to see that as, okay, well, they're working outside of the scope, so I can ask them to do more. I can request more. That gives them more power. It gives them more leverage. And in the end of the day, it really just makes your life harder. And it's really interesting because outside of the business realm of things, so my fiance and I are watching Beast Games, the second season, trying to get that one finished. It's really hard when the kids are running around and we kind of pause it 17 times and then we go, we'll finish it later. But it goes back to that, is if you've watched Beast Game, if you watch Survivor, any of those kind of shows, you see it every single season, every single episode, where someone might be overly transparent when they don't have to be, and it comes back to bite them in the ass. I know this is something that my fiance and I talk about too, in just our personal lives, is don't overshare, don't over and divulge, right? If information does not need to be given, then don't fucking give it. And that's it, again, it's something that is really hard, especially in business. It's really hard. One second, let me turn my comments on. It's really hard sometimes to not overstep or not step outside of your scope, to encourage maybe progress, to encourage rapid response. I know I have, in business, been over divulgent. I have been very willing to negotiate or speak out of the scope, to try to progress something quicker than it needs to be progressed, or try to gain a little bit of leverage, whether that's from the financial side, whatever it might be. I feel like me indulging their needs or concerns would gain me something, and in the long run, or keep me from having to deal with pain, from telling them no, because that's outside of the scope. But in the long run, it turns into, instead of a 10-minute conversation that might be painful or uncomfortable, it then turns into weeks and weeks of pain and uncomfort, and no one wants to fucking deal with that. So again, I think a lot of times we're lied about, hey, if you work hard, if you communicate clearly, if you get everything done that you're supposed to do, trust follows. And yes, that happens sometimes, but the majority of the time, trust does not come from you giving up more and more stuff. And it's really interesting because they planned this podcast out, and I actually saw Mike and Cass, they put something on Instagram about trust, and they both have a different way of building trust with someone. Mike is more of that, I'm going to give you trust until you break that trust, and then you're never giving it again. Cass is more of one of those, I'm going to give you a job, and you can build your trust through that. So it works sometimes. It works going, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to stay committed. I'm going to be honest about everything that I need to be honest about. And sometimes you have to start with that trust first, and then build from there. So I think a big part of all of this is to, especially as an entrepreneur, when you're starting out, and if you're looking for investors, if you're looking for partners, whatever it might be that you're looking for, make sure that you have your scope very cleanly laid out. Make sure that this is what I'm going to give my investors. This is what I'm going to give my board members. This is how often I'm going to do that. And don't fluctuate off of that, because as soon as you fluctuate, again, you start to transfer some of that power that you have. And it's not like you're trying to take power away from other people. But a lot of times, once that power starts to be transferred, it's very, very hard to regain that power without pissing everybody off. As quick as a simple no, I could just say, hey, no, unfortunately, you have the documents that's outside of our scope, that's outside of how we do business. I'm more than happy to accommodate you when that is scheduled to be accommodated. But at this moment, I have other things I have to do, because if you say yes, you're going to say yes over and over, and it's going to take you away from so much of what you have to do as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. You get taken away to do stuff to stroke people's ego or to make them feel extra secure. You can't do that, because it will burn you out quicker than anything else in business, is trying to constantly satisfy everyone around you. And again, my fiance and I've talked about this, and she beats this into my head all the time, and I honestly need to listen to her more on this, because not only is it like that in personal or in business life, but it's like that in personal life. You can work outside of the scope one time, and whether that's with family, whether that's with friends, as soon as they see they can get you to bend a little bit, a lot of times they'll take advantage of that. Sometimes they won't, but a lot of times they'll take advantage of it. Say, okay, well, I asked him to do this once, and now I can ask him to do it again and again and again. And it becomes a toxic relationship, personally, but it becomes a very toxic relationship when it's business. When big numbers are involved, when big equity percentages are involved, it is a clusterfuck that you will create for yourself if you work outside of that scope. Now, I'm not saying that, especially in personal relationships, maybe some people might need this, but building out a scope and when I talk about a scope, it's, hey, we're going to do board meetings this often. We're going to review progress being made on a project this often. We're going to, reevaluate our budget every year. Who has a say in that? Who does not have a say in that? And how is that defined? But once you define it, you have to stick to it. And then if you don't, you're screwed. And again, that takes me back to Beast Games, right? It's like I was saying earlier, my fiance and I are big into watching Beast Games right now. And there's so many times that the good person, they went out of their way to do something good, and it became basically a vulnerability that everybody who was playing the game. Now, I don't want to say that Beast Games is a lot of a lighter situation than business is, but to an extent it is. Yes, they have the opportunity to win $5 million, which is life-changing amounts of money. But in business, you have the ability to produce $5 million every single year, every single month, if you're lucky, or how often that might be. But there are going to be more sharks. There's going to be more villains. There's going to be more people who are going to try to push you to bend, break, adjust the rules, the scope, the operating agreements, so that they can control the narrative. They can control the power. And you just can't let them do that. I made the mistake. I've done that before. It's something I've had to clean up, and it is painful to clean up, and it is a painstakingly long process to clean up. And again, I think that to an extent in personal relationships, whether it's families, friends, significant others, transparency is truth. You have to be transparent with your significant other. But you've got to create some type of honestly, some type of a scope to say, hey, this is when we can talk about this. This is when, this is going to happen. This is how this is laid out. And I think that if you lay it out, and maybe that's just me, but I think if you lay it out somewhat like a business, it helps everything run smoother, because, it's, hey, this is how we operate. And I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling because there's random things in my head, and I really don't have a whole lot actually prepared for this, just because, again, it's something I'm dealing with a lot here of recent, and it's something that I'm encouraging everyone to try to avoid, because it is exhausting, and it's quite a big pain in the ass to deal with. But it, it's it's crazy because, again, as I was thinking about this, and as my fiance and I have been watching Beast Games, you see every aspect of that. Transparency is not trust. Transparency does not equal trust. Um, I don't want to be a spoiler on it, but the episode we're watching right now, um, her being overly transparent, sharing something with, if you guys have watched it, it's Monica and Jim. Monica shared something with Jim that she didn't necessarily have to share. And then at that point, it gave another player power, not because he knew what she had shared, but she knew that she could, he knew that he could play her, Monica, and Jim against each other to figure out what the factual truth was, which then in the end, I think will bite her substantially. So again, you be transparent to an extent, but don't work outside of your scope, and have your scope, have your plan very clear, very clean, and then don't deviate from that. The um, I'm trying to think of, one of the things, and this was something I was talking to a very, very large investor. This has been months and months and months and months ago, and when him and his team were talking to me about potentially investing, they wanted to change so much, and I will say that was one time that I was very stern on my scope. I was very stern on what I wanted for the business, what I wanted for Triton, how I wanted Triton to be handled, how I wanted it to be managed, and honestly, the morals of the company. I was very stern on that, and it was scary telling someone that has been so successful in business, who's made billions upon billions of dollars in business. It's scary to tell them, hey, I know that you want to put in a massive amount of money, but I am not necessarily okay with the changes that you are wanting me to make. I'm not okay with how you want to move the company in specific directions. Do I think that those directions are very profitable? Absolutely. Do they match everything that I want for the company? Not even close. And so I basically had to say, hey, we've got to back burner this because we're not coming close enough to an agreement. Now, I do feel that they still are interested in investing in Triton if I ever wanted them to. And I don't think that they would push me to change so much in Triton, because they see the potential there. But fuck, it was scary having to tell them no, especially when you're a startup company and you need capital, you need funds, you need to, produce dollar so that you can produce your product. It's hard to turn big money away from that. But at the end of the day, I had, you know, my operations, my scope of what we were as a company, who I want our company to be, and how I want it to be ran. And when it didn't match, it didn't match. But the thing is there's a lot of times too, and this is kind of going back onto when you are dealing with partners, that is partners, investors, even friends and family who help you with your business, who work in your business. Even if you set that scope and you say, hey, this is what it is, they agree to it, they're still going to try. They're still going to say, hey, I know that this is a little bit outside of the scope, but is there any way you can do this? Is there any way that you can send me this? And again, once you say yes to it, you have opened the floodgates for everybody else to ask for that same thing. And then once they all ask for it, they all feel like they now have the freedom to continually ask questions, to push the scope, to push the operating agreement into their favor. So just lock it down, make it tight, and stick with it, because it will save you so much time and effort once you do that. And again, it's sometimes it sucks to say no, but saying no then is so much easier than saying no 3 weeks down the line, 5 weeks down the line, a month down the line, whatever it might be. It's so much easier, and there's so much power in the scope. And if you don't know what the scope is, then send me a message, and or if you're having a hard time figuring out, is my scope structured properly? Because I'll tell you right off the bat, my first scope, my first operating agreement, my first investor agreement, it was not clean. It did not protect me very well. It has been cleaned up substantially. It's going to be continually cleaned up as there's more and more things that come up and go, shit, I should have put that in there. And so moving forward, those will be amended. There'll be adjustments made. I do have to go through the board now. Unfortunately, it would have been a lot easier had I done it before we had a board. But now that we do have a board, I do have to go through the board to make those adjustments. But they'll understand that, it's to protect the company, it's to protect me. And that is one thing that I will say, that my board is very willing to work with me on a lot of stuff. So yeah, as I think about it, and I don't want to get too much into this is your personal life and business life, but I know for me, one of the things that I've struggled with, and my fiance she has been trying so hard to help me get out of this mindset, because it's not a healthy mindset to be in, but I call it the good guy trap. The good guy trap, is you want to help everybody, right? You want you want everyone to be happy. You don't want frustration. You don't want disagreements. You don't want arguments. And you feel like every time that you say no to someone, it's going to be a massive blow up. It's going to be this massive undertaking. And so you dread it, and you just say, okay, well, I'll just do it this one time. That good guy trap will get you stuck in so many fucked up situations. And I'm at a point now in my life that there is very, very few people I will say yes to automatically. That is a very small list. There's very few people I will say yes to at all anymore in life, just because I only have so much energy to give. And if that energy does not pay back in some way, not saying that it financially has to pay back, but if that energy goes out and there's not something that I can reciprocate from that, then it's not worth my time. Now, when it comes to family, when it comes to my kids, there's a lot of energy that goes into that, that you don't say. It's not necessarily a reciprocating. You don't gain something other than seeing them be happy and play and have enjoyment. But outside of that, I'm trying really hard. And again, I have to shout out my fiance. I have to get her on the podcast, because I think, first off, she is incredibly smart. My COO and I laugh all the time that if his wife and my fiance got together, they could build a business so much better than we could, because they think through everything. And they're very, very, very smart, where we are not that smart, and we don't really think through everything. We're just kind of like, hey, let's shoot from the hip. Let's hope that we hit the target. If we don't, we'll find another target to shoot at. Anyways, I don't even remember where I was going with that, but I would love to have her on the podcast, because again, she's incredibly smart, and has helped me grow personally a lot. And honestly, has helped me grow as an entrepreneur substantially too, because when it comes to the scope, is I explain so much to her. We talk a lot about work, and when we do talk about work, I say, hey, this is what's going on, or this is what's happening. And she gives me so different of a perspective than what I come into it as, that it helps me create a lot of clarity, and it helps me honestly protect myself, because she looks at it as okay, what are the angles that someone could take advantage of this situation? Where can people take advantage of you, take advantage of your kindness? And how do you protect against that? I am a way more optimistic, more positive. I'm like, okay, well, no one's gonna, try to screw me. I've known this person for 15 years. There's no way they could screw me. It's the same person that I had sign an NDA and then like 30 seconds later go ahead and leak everything that I was building with Triton. So yeah, that we see how that went. And again, I will say that had I listened to my fiance on that, I would have not been so quick to release as much information. I would have kind of felt it out, put a little bit out there, and then let him dig his own grave or let him build the trust. Right. But that's, again, my transparency. I thought being transparent with him, being upfront and honest with him was me showing, hey, I can trust you, or you can trust me. Can I trust you? And that bit me in the ass. Honestly, at the end of the day, it made me accelerate Triton in a way that I wasn't planning necessarily on accelerating it. It made me come out as the founder and CEO of that. That was something too that I wasn't necessarily wanting to do. I didn't want my name necessarily attached to Triton, just because my last name, of course, because of my dad's company, and then I worked in my dad's company for a very long time. It holds a lot of weight with the dealers, and I wanted Triton to be Triton. I didn't necessarily want it to be, oh, this is a Clements that's building this. This is Bob's son that's building this. I wanted people to see it and go, holy shit, this is like the coolest product we've ever seen. And it does everything that it could possibly do. And then if they find out that, oh, this was built by Brian Clements, they're gonna go, oh, now we understand why the workflows work the way that they do. We understand why the processes that are built into the system are built the way they are, is because, Brian has spent 14 years building processes for dealers. And so he gets and understands processes and dealerships really, really well. But again, we had to navigate and pivot, because I was transparent, overly transparent, and the trust that did not follow there. So again, I would just warn everybody is don't overstep what is being asked. If people are asking questions, it's okay to be vague. It's okay to not jump through every single hoop to make them happy. Especially if you have this is how I operate, this is how I answer questions, this is how this happens. Make them work on your timeline. Don't switch it around. Don't work on their timeline. No matter how bad you need their funding, no matter how bad you might want their deepest advice, is set your standard for, if I need funding, here's every step that I need to take as a business owner to make sure that I am protected, especially if there's equity going out the door, or you're giving up positions for, board positions, whatever it might be. Make sure that you're fully protected. Make sure that you follow your process before you just jump the gun. Because I know for me, when I first started Triton and I was looking at getting funding, my very first investor, I really didn't care what he had asked, but he could have basically asked for the world, and I just needed the funds to help produce Triton. I probably would have given him everything, anything and everything. Now he's an incredible guy. I trust him 100%. And I don't feel like he would ever screw me. And I know that he doesn't feel like I would ever screw him. And so it was a very, very fair. It's continued to be very, very fair. He's actually reinvested in the company. And, but had I not had that kind of relationship that I had with him, I could have gotten screwed out of Triton very, very quickly. And again, I'm 90% sure that my fiance and I probably had a conversation about that. And I know we talk about it all the time, is anytime I talk about a new investor or a new partner, she goes, well, what are they getting? How are they getting it? How are you protected? How do you do this? And she brings me down because it's exciting, right? It's exciting when someone goes, hey, I want to invest in you. I believe in your products. I want to invest in what you're doing. That's really exciting. And it's hard sometimes to get those emotions out of the way. And that's why you have to have that operation plans, that investment plans, all of the scope of operations and investments, and say, does this fit the scope? Did I take all of the steps? Because that removes that emotion. That removes all of the if, ands, or buts. You know that you're protected. You know that you still have all the control, and you know that at the end of the day, as long as you follow that scope, it will be a great partnership. You might still have disagreements, but that's what the scope's for, right? Is yes, we have a disagreement, but this is how the company is managed. This is how we make our decisions. This is the timelines in which we do things. That creates all of the clarity in the world. And you really have to just lock that shit down right off the bat. That needs to be the first thing. Once you come up with your business plan, once you come up with your product, whatever it is, get scopes built for every single thing. Because the reality of it, and going into hunting side of things or going into military, whatever it is, right? Scopes give you sight, long distance sight. And if you've ever shot a rifle that has a scope on it, right? There's lots of little markings that can be on inside of a scope. And if you follow every single step, if you follow every single process that has to be done with that scope, and you know what those markings mean, or you know what they're set for, you can hit your target every single time. But as soon as you look outside of that scope, that target that you're trying to hit is now not even within, the naked eye shot of what you're doing. But once you go back to that scope and you see every level of every, marker that's inside of that scope, and you say, okay, I need to adjust here. I need to adjust here. I need to take this step, this step, this step. You do that every time you pull that trigger, you're going to hit the target. So if you want to hit the target, if you want to stay on track, if you want to be successful in business, or honestly, if you want to be really successful in beast games, create a scope, create an operating agreement when you go into it, and don't deviate from that. Because if you don't deviate from that, honestly, I think that you would have a really freaking good chance of winning or competing on beast games. I mean, you take the luck out of it. There's a lot of luck that is part of it. If you were to take that out of it, you could almost guarantee a win if you stuck to that structure. But with that, I'm going to kind of just stop rambling. I appreciate everyone who's watching. I'm not sure if Bob's going to be back in the studio next week with me. If he's not, we'll come up with something fun to talk about. If you guys have something that you want to talk about, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, whatever it might be. Get in contact with us. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I do have some awesome guests that I am getting lined up, and it will be a lot of fun to have on the show. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I'm going to get home and spend a little bit of extra time with the missus and the kiddos. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next week, we will see you guys. And remember, set your scope. Don't deviate from it. And you will always hit the target if you do those two things. So thanks again, everybody. I'm Brian. This has been Unplugged Unfiltered, and we will catch you next Wednesday.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows, the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Never never disappoint. So we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show 'em this new